Hello and welcome to Barry's Economics with a close-up look at what actually makes Gary Stevenson stand out. For those of you that don't know, Gary Stevenson is a trader, an economist who's a lot on social media at the moment, across all media at the moment, and he's a self-made millionaire, and he seems to be arguing against his own self-interest, because all he wants to talk about is how much we need to tax people like him. And listen, there's a bunch of things about him that are really interesting and make him stand out.
You, with all the complexity of your life, weirdly end up turning up at an investment bank.
Yeah.
But there's one thing that makes him truly stand out, I think. So this is a snippet from his interview on Diary of a CEO.
You know, our kids will be rich, their kids will be poor. And I just think we should be honest with them. Capitalism's finished. We won. Well done, Stephen. Well done, Daniel. Well done, Gary. It's over now. Our kids will be rich, their kids will be poor. They'll pay the taxes. We won't pay the taxes. We'll avoid it. I'll make money betting on it year after year. Why are we lying to them? Why are we lying to them?
Yeah, I think that's an overly simplified view of things. I
It's
don't think.
a simplified view of things that has made me a multimillionaire.
Yeah, well, look, entrepreneurs take bets on the economy as well. We take bets differently. When we start a company, we're betting on how the economy
The average
will be.
British and American worker at the 50th percentile, do you think their kids will be richer than they are?
And this is part of it. So firstly, he's naming and pointing out the privilege that he has and the other people in the room have. Like, when do you ever hear that? Like most millionaires, most millionaire presenters and millionaire broadcasters, they never say that. So there's that. But next, and this is key, he's then bringing it right back to the 50th percentile, the people that are the poorest in society. Will it affect them? How will it affect them? Why? Because Gary has direct contact with those people, day in, day out, because he grew up like that. That is why it's so important to have a cross-section of backgrounds or people from different backgrounds in the media space. But what does it sound like when people that don't have direct experience of the poorest in society and the 50th percentile that haven't grown up with those people, what does that sound like? I mean, is that radically different as well? It sounds like this.
So if you suddenly say to them, they've got to pay an extra tax, even at 1% over the value of £2 million, you will find that there are individuals who are very badly affected by this. But they're not the only ones, because London property particularly is so expensive that most people living in London, young people who are trying to get on the property ladder, doing well in their careers, have large mortgages. So to have a £2.5 million property in London, well, it may have a £2 million mortgage on it. So suddenly to whack that with an extra tax would be desperately unfair on the people who are growing their careers, growing their financial success, but aren't in a position to pay an extra £5,000. They've taken out as big a mortgage as they can. They want to live near their work. They're working long hours to make this work for them and for their families. Perhaps both spouses are working. Perhaps they have children. Perhaps they want to have children, but they won't be able to afford to because of the extra tax that will be taken for them.
That 50th percent aren't seen. The fact that a millionaire, Jacob Rees-Mogg, feels it's okay to come online out loud and say redistribution of wealth isn't fair because the millionaires will struggle. So don't redistribute the wealth. You need to tax working people, tax their income, and build public services from income, not from assets. And he can say that without recognizing the fact that that is the reason the 50th percent are struggling, because there is no redistribution of wealth. You know, it's like somebody standing in the front of the buffet with 4 plates stacked up to their kind of like in their arms. I was like, we can't redistribute any food. That would be unfair. But the people at the back should club together and share their lunchboxes. In fact, if they bothered to cook more, there would be enough for all of them. The hypocrisy, he just doesn't see the hypocrisy. Like, brother, Jacob, The reason they're hungry is because you're the one holding the buffet lunch hostage. And Gary's background means, and this is the key difference, the fact that he brings it back again and again and again to the 50th percentile. And he shows up the hypocrisy of that other point of view. He keeps bringing it down to brass tacks, or brass tacks, as I like to call it. That's one of my better puns, because there's no one from the same background in the media space, even though 60% of the UK come from that background, 60% are working class. And that heartbreakingly is what makes Gary different and unique again and again and again. For example, look at this snippet from Diary of a CEO interview with Daniel Priestley, the entrepreneur.
Here's what I trust. I trust economic freedom. If people have freedom, they create better decisions for their own life. There's two ways to make decisions, right? There's two ways.
You have freedom.
I've got less freedom than I did when I arrived. Just
because my sister can't pay the rent. Is that freedom?
If you're living in a country,
she can't afford to live in the city that she was born in.
I agree. You and I agree on the problem. You keep bringing back to the problem.
I keep bringing it back to people, because the people who watch, we're millionaires, okay? The people who watch us are mostly not millionaires. Is life going to get better for them?
The life will get better. The countries that get in the way of your economic freedom have more poverty, and the countries that let people make decisions for their own life.
So what you're saying is, if the governments of our countries cut taxes on us, the 3 multimillionaires sitting at this table, that will improve the lives of the ordinary British and American.
I'll give you a real life example
to feed their kids.
Again, Gary brings it back to the people affected, the people that he knows, the people that he grew up with. And that's what makes him unique, because through that filter, none of the theoretical arguments work, which makes Gary ask practical questions about money, how it affects real lives. Because most people on these podcasts they want to talk about the big picture. You know, they don't want practicals. For example,
the question would be, though, how would you tax people, right? And how would you actually structure it? Because regardless of what you feel like is fair, this is the thing. It's not about fairness. It's about what you can pragmatically and practically do in the modern economy. Yeah. You might say, oh, I actually, like, for example, if we said what's fair, a lot of people would say a flat tax is fair. You make £1, you pay 20%. You make £1 million, you pay 20%. You make £100 million, you pay 20%. So a lot of people would say the fairest tax system would just be a flat tax on everything, right? That would be a fair thing. It's pragmatically, can you do it? Is it actually good for society? Should people be excluded from that? So it's not about fairness. It's about pragmatically, what can you get away with?
All right, well, pragmatically, what we can get away with is desperate poverty for our viewers' kids.
If you want to have... Can we zoom out just a minute, right? I want to zoom out.
Let's zoom away from our viewers' kids.
Zoom out.
Forget about them. They're not
I'm a dad, right? I got 3 kids.
You are a multi-millionaire dad.
Do you know...
You probably don't have the same problems as our viewers.
Do you know that kids born into the top have a 60% chance of dropping out of the top? Right? 60%. That's the number. It's called persistence. You can Google it. The persistence rates is actually only 40% for the richest, so which means 60% drop out in the second.
Do you think your kids have a 60% chance of living in poverty?
Also, not poverty.
Do you know what's interesting? That we're all trying to aim at the same goal, I think, here.
I'm not sure we are, boss.
Well, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. Maybe we're not.
I suspect some of us are maybe trying to protect our kids.
No, I want widespread affluence through the technological revolution that's happening, and I don't want the people who create that to want to go somewhere else.
So you agree with me that we should cut tax on wealth creators and raise tax on wealth hoarders?
Well, broadly.
Gary is talking for and also to the working poor. Like, watch him reframe the tax debate here in practical terms and look clearly at income that comes from work and income that comes to privileged people.
The other taxes.
So what would you say?
But it's just not true that he doesn't pay tax.
No, what would you say? This guy, he's inherited £10 billion. So he's worth £10 billion. What would you say will be the total amount of tax he will pay in his lifetime?
Well, I know that just the smallest...
If I make £10 billion, I pay 60%.
Just want to say, you're talking about income versus the transfer of an estate.
So why is it? Because Duke of Westminster just got £10 billion.
You're comparing your income
yeah.
versus the amount he inherited, which is not a fair thing. That's not income.
That's his income.
Inheritance is not income.
So wait. So if I get given £10 billion, I don't pay any tax. But if I work for £10 billion, I pay 60%.
Well, if you inherit
If this is the tax system that you want, you will end up in a system where kids of the rich will own everything.
I'm just saying
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And that's fine because that's our kids.
You're not telling the truth about his
situation. Let's have a tax system where your kids and my kids and Stephen's kids are multimillionaires, and these guys out there can't afford to feed their kids and put the heat in.
That's not what I'm saying.
But that's what you will get.
That's not what I'm saying.
That is what you will get. Listen.
He is literally translating the tax system so that it's clear what's fair and what's unfair. He's making the clear parallel between income that comes from parents to income that comes from work. He puts it so that everyone can understand one earned and one not earned, that an individual is receiving. And watch what happens in the interview. Daniel Priestley says, you're not talking about apples and pears, you're not talking about income, you're talking about the transfer of an estate.
Yeah. Listen, I worked my tits off and I paid, it was 50% top rate of tax. 50% top rate of tax, plus national insurance, 60%.
So $1 million a year.
To bring my family out of poverty. At the same time, the Duke of Westminster inherited £10 billion and paid nothing. Do you think that's fair?
That's not true.
Okay, why is it not true?
Because the Duke of Westminster is one of the highest taxpayers in the country.
What does he pay?
Well, on the trust, the Grosvenor estate, they don't pay inheritance tax because trusts can't die. They pay something called periodic taxes,
which is how much?
6% every 10 years.
6%, so they pay 0.6% a year.
So
I paid 60% and this guy pays 0.6%.
Apples with apples. Inheritance tax is 40% across the course of your life. If a trust is, if a person lives who owns a trust for 70 years, then 6% times 7 would be 42. So they actually pay more.
So he pays 0.6% a year.
Pro
You're telling me 0.6%.
But that would be the same as...
What percent did I pay per year?
No, but that's...
60%.
Hold up.
So you're saying I pay, what's 60 over 0.6?
No.
100 times the tax rate.
You're not comparing apples with apples.
Wait, why is it not apples with apples? This guy pays 0.6% a year. I paid 60% a year.
That's inheritance tax.
I paid that 60% every year, Daniel. Every year I paid
You're paying income tax.
Daniel says, you're talking about income versus the transfer of an estate. As if those are two separate things, a transfer and estate. It's like magical money that's outside the system. Like money going to a person that did not work for it just because of a quirk of birth. It's my money, my precious. It came from my father and my father's father. It should never be taxed. It's our special money lake. It's not part of the sea because the rich frame the question as, we can't afford public services. But Gary frames the question as, we can't afford a class of permanent rich people. We can't afford a class of permanent rich people. And because Gary asked that question, it makes it clear how absurd the answers are to the question, why can't we tax the rich? Even Daniel agrees that it's absurd. But notice his rationalization to why we can't tax the rich.
I think it's disgusting that a British company can take out a Facebook ad to sell to a British consumer a British product, and Facebook pretends to be in Ireland on that transaction. And Amazon, you can buy something on Amazon in Britain from a British supplier from a British warehouse, and Amazon pretends to be in Luxembourg in that situation. And that sucks, right? Like that does not seem fair, and it strikes me as very strange that the government is okay with that. Right now, the government is chasing down mums and dads who sell a few things on eBay and chasing them for taxes, but they don't talk to eBay. They're paranoid about someone doing a little bit of a side hustle on Facebook, but Facebook's fine to pretend to be in Ireland. So I don't agree with all of that, right? Like I think we're missing some serious tricks here. But the idea with taxing billionaires at wealth, billionaires will just leave.
Now people say, you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. You just can't do it. You can't do it. You can't tax the rich. You can't do it. You can't tax the rich. You just can't do it.
Why is a wealth tax a bad idea?
I looked it up about a month ago when this became a topic, and it doesn't work.
I'm not saying that you can't do this. I'm saying that the benefits of doing it, it's so hard to tax wealth.
Wealth taxes historically have not done anything like what they're promised to do. It's a really simple message. It's
It's too hard to tax the rich, the wealthy. You can't, it's impossible. They avoid it. Is it impossible though? Or are they avoiding looking at the need to do it? Is an interesting question. Because everybody's saying you can't do it. But why does it get avoided? Because nobody is asking how you can do it.
But you have A government class who are extremely wealthy and a media class who are extremely wealthy saying it's impossible to tax rich people.
The richer classes aren't mentioning the fact that income at the higher tax rates is being translated into assets. They're not saying that because there's a bias there that comes into this, that the working classes literally don't have a voice, an alternate voice, which is pretty much what Gary is almost alone on media talking about that. Like the percentage of people in the media, look at these stats, the percentage of people in the media that come from the elite universities and from the upper classes, the percentage of people in government that come from the wealthier classes, just look at those stats. The thing is, if you are like that, at the end of the day, you do feel for the working poor, but you still go home to your Hampstead house at night and you don't feel the urgency. You don't truly see and feel the problem. And this is why it's so important that most of the voices you hear in the media and online are not having day in, day out contact with those people in the 50th percentile. They're distanced from them. And when you are distanced, you feel that the system is kind of okay. I mean, it's not perfect, but we just need to tweak it, you know, not do anything drastic. Like, I mean, don't tax the rich. I mean, you just don't feel it that keenly. It's not urgent for you because you're okay, which is status quo bias. And I mentioned that in this video here, clearly. Because the better off don't see the problem. They don't see the harshness, the urgency of it, which is why often when they hear it, comes across as anger because of the urgency.
I think your class anger is not letting you see some of the realities of politics.
And that's because firstly, these people don't know hundreds of people that are struggling. And secondly, they have stuff invested in the current system and they're pretty comfortable. And this is a clear bias, clear bias with not wanting to disrupt the system that benefits you. Don't rock the boat. Yes, I know that technically there is space in the boat for other people in the boat. And I know technically there are people outside in the sea, but actually I've got quite a lot of stuff on this boat. And if we rock it to try and let people in, I might lose some of my stuff. So is there maybe another way we could get people into the boat? Maybe we could get them to build their own life rafts or something like that. It's like, I mean, I like theoretically the idea of getting people into the boat and being comfortable and safe, but you know, there's got to be another way. And that's just motivated reasoning. Like, you will find reasons, like if you're a CEO or whether you're Rory Stewart, however well-intentioned you are, you will convince yourself that it's the right thing or that it's impossible. You just can't do it.
So it's not about fairness, it's about pragmatically what can you get away with.
Because it plays into your motivated reasoning, your preference and your own bias.
I will agree 100%. It is difficult to tax rich people.
Yeah. And this is why it's such a problem right now that there are so few voices from any working class background in the conversation. But the people from the background like this, they have no time. Like even me, I'm one of the lucky ones. I come from that background, but I survived years of struggle, bankruptcy, homelessness, and I was lucky enough to build this comedy club. So I have the time to make these videos, but most people from this background don't have the time to make these types of videos. I'm lucky. Gary is also lucky. He survived, made money, and came out punching. But there aren't that many people who have that luxury that come from the background that we come from, that see their family struggling, like people that have 2 jobs, or they're screwed from years of no sleep and working full-time and having a family and needing to claim benefits even though they're working full-time. And they didn't get the luxury that I got of a proper university education. Like the only reason I got to university was because I passed the 11 plus when I was 11 years old. Like I come from a family of 36 cousins and none of my cousins when I went to university had been to university. And that's what makes Gary different. He's actually talking from the front line of inequality, a voice that is absent on our television screens and our debates. So yeah, it's not his book, it's not his trading background, his energy, his communication skills, but the fact that he's actually in touch with the problem and knows it deeply into his bones. And what's incredible is that nobody can hear those facts again and again because the bias is so strong. And the people that have that bias are in the majority. They're the people that shape and frame the story. Don't believe the gaslighting. You can see the story here clearly in this video. So when you hear someone talking about passionately and clearly about inequality, and you hear somebody else push back and say,
I think your class anger is not letting you see some of the realities of politics.
the correct question isn't, why am I angry? The correct question is, why are you not angry? Because the answer is, you don't see the problem. You don't see that point of view. But we can change it just by sharing this fact and giving voice to the 60% or more of people that are at the 50th percentile and at the hard edge of inequality. Listen, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this analysis of Gary Stevenson.